Welcome to New Zealand. Thanks for joining me. My name is Paul Smith. This is my YouTube channel. I'm a photographer based here in New Zealand. Can I recommend the Leica M8 as a camera to purchase in 2022 and onwards? That's the subject of this video. I get asked all the time. The number one question on my channel has been, Leica M8, is it worth the money? Should I buy one? I've been offered one for this amount of money, and should I do it? Should I buy it? And I find it difficult to answer that question, especially in a message. So today I thought I'd make a video on the pros and cons of this camera, and do I think that you should buy it, or is it worth buying in 2022 onwards? Here we go. The simple answer to that question is no. This does not make any sense. It does not make any sense to buy this camera in 2022. It's an old camera now. I forget how old it is, but it's old. It's the first Leica digital M camera, and it's in a lot of ways it's not that great. It has a lot of shortfalls. Let's look at those. Firstly, the sensor, crop sensor. It makes it difficult for me to match lenses of this. It's one of those things like, I like shooting at 35mm, so to shoot 35mm on this crop sensor, I'm having to shoot at 28. I don't own a Leica 28mm. I do own this Zeiss 28mm lens, which is beautiful, great, which fills the gap. But it frustrates me a little bit that I can't use one of my Leica lenses on this camera. I don't have a 28mm. My 35mm then becomes a 50-ish kind of focal length on this camera, being a crop sensor, and my 50 becomes a 70, I think, something like that. So it just makes it a bit fuddly when you're trying to marry up your Leica lenses. So crop sensor's an issue. Feature-wise, it's got no features really. It's very, very restricted, and bare basics. Shutter speed, aperture, has aperture priority mode. Apart from that, you've got JPEG mode, you've got a few other features. Check it out, and there's plenty of videos out there what for features on this. But it's very restricted. It's bare basics photography. Price-wise, looking at buying one of these second-hand now, I'm not sure what sort of money you're looking at, but I think it's about 1,500 euros. So for 1,500 euros, you can buy into probably a brand new camera with a lens, perhaps, that's got loads more features of this and still takes nice pictures. So from that reason alone, I would find it difficult to recommend this. The features are pretty average. Reliability. These are becoming unreliable, I think, and sensors are starting to fail on them. I've already started to have some problems with my sensor on this camera, spots and things on the sensor, which I'm presuming is corrosion there on the sensor of some sort. I have managed to clean that in the past. I don't really want to be getting in there and mucking around cleaning it too much going forward, but that is a problem. So big problem with this camera. They're starting to fail. So again, I think that's probably the main reason why I can't recommend this camera as a go forward purchase in 2022. On the positive side, this is a really, I wouldn't say fun camera to use, because sometimes the restrictions on this camera actually become a fun part of photography, simply because, again, look, I don't want to sound like I'm a Leica fanboy, but I probably am, so excuse my admiration for these things, but it's just kind of no frills photography, and from that perspective it becomes a little bit more challenging to use, and not so much challenging, it becomes I guess less challenging is probably the point, because you haven't got all these features. All of a sudden your photography becomes a lot more simple. You don't have to worry about all sorts of stuff in the menu that you should have checked before you started. Set your ISO. I chuck this on A mode, aperture priority mode, and just work the aperture on it. And it's just a really hassle-free way of shooting. Which in the modern day is quite nice. You don't have to, how many times have you picked up your camera and, you've got settings that haven't been put back properly, all things that you haven't, you've got all these things, all these settings in your head that just do your head in sometimes. All these things kind of like, they're great to have all these things, all this technology is wonderful, but if you know, sometimes you're at your camera and then all of a sudden a light flashes, or you know, something's not working, and you go, well, what's going on here with that? Why isn't it working? And then you've got to try and work through the situations, especially if you haven't used a camera for a while and you pick it up after using a different brand camera, and you pick up I use an Olympus camera quite a lot. I go and pick up a Sony camera, and it's just like, it's like shooting in a different language, or speaking in a different language. You've got to re-establish yourself in your head, all these fancy things in the menu that you've got to set up before you even start to shoot. Or are you set up properly? And that does my head in at times. So that's why this is actually quite nice to use from that perspective. It's just hassle-free. It produces really beautiful images. It's organic. The images are just natural images. One of the things that I find anyway with digital cameras is this: pictures can be beautiful, but there's an unnatural look to them at times. They can be too digital, if you know what I mean. I've shot most brands. For instance, Fuji. I mean, I've got some beautiful pictures with my Fuji X series camera. But there's still this digital look to the images that you just, although it's nice, it's just sometimes it's not real. Whereas the pictures that come from this camera, they're kind of real. They're normal. They're natural. They just look organic. Is the only word I can think of at the moment. It just has a nice look, not even like a film look. It's just a nice natural look to them, which really is appealing. So all those things considered, at the end of the day, I can't hand on heart recommend anybody to buy this camera, but I can say if you're willing to take into account what I've just said, the reasons against this camera, and you're happy with that, and you don't mind maybe losing some money on the purchase of this camera, then go ahead and buy it, because you'll have a great time shooting it. You'll get some nice pictures out of it, and you'll have a Leica. Fanboy. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Listen, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more of my photography, if you want to see more of my Leica photography, I have an ebook out called MSCAPES. Most of the pictures are in that ebook are taken with this camera, along with the M9. So it gives you a good idea of what this camera is capable of. Available from my website. I'll put a link up here, on the left-hand side. Link up here for that, whichever side it is. It's MSCAPES. I think it's available for 10 New Zealand dollars, which is bugger all, $5. I also have my actual book, which is called Scenes from the Black Sand. Again, it's available up there on that little button there. That'll take you to my shop. 30 New Zealand dollars for Scenes from the Black Sand. That includes postage. I'll post that anywhere in the world for $30. Just a bit of a look at my photography over the last few years. Scenes from the Black Sand. A great way of supporting the channel if you've enjoyed the content today. Either of those publications are available on the website. Check them out and go and buy them. Support the channel. It would be mostly appreciated. That's it for this episode. I appreciate you looking in. Hopefully that's answered some questions, and in future I can direct people to this video if they ask me about the Leica M8. Can I recommend it? Not really, but really, yeah. Does it make sense? Check it out. It's up to you guys. At the end of the day, the decision is with you. I got to go. Haere rā from New Zealand. Goodbye. Thank you.